You guys live?
Hello.
Yeah. Sorry. Hi, everyone. How you doing? So there you are. Sorry, I could look at the camera more often. Yes, sorry about the green screen. So the idea here was somebody had this idea. One of you guys had this idea, and I thought this would be fun to do. Let me see if I can get this green screen better. It's focus centered there, like that. Okay, there we go. So the idea is that you guys get a chance to put anything you want behind me and send us a copy of it, and we'll give a prize to the most creative winner.
Okay.
So like, you just take this, use your green screen programs out there. I know a lot of you are out there, and have something funny that would be fun behind us. That would be good, and we'll show some of the best results.
So it's gonna have you like falling off a cliff or something like that.
Yeah, like I think I have the green screen lighted pretty well. I'm trying to remember. So
I could lend out the one of you falling off the ball. That's easy.
Yeah, like you could put me in the middle of the desert. You could put me in the middle of just keep it clean, because
Yeah. Family show.
Let me move this over here so I can look more.
And ex-mother watches, so
a lot of people's mothers watch. So
actually, it was. Never mind.
Not my mom.
Go ahead, Russ.
My mom watches Lifetime.
So my mom watches the Hallmark Channel, which is the abomination of all friggin' TV.
It really is.
Like
my mom watches
the girl who plays Winnie Cooper for the Wonder in the Wonder Years.
Loved her.
Is on every other show on that network.
Yeah, that's like the sweet spot actresses like that. Where
back in the day, man, Winnie was hot.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, okay, when she was 12.
Yeah, I know that's kind of weird to say, but that's true.
It is kind of weird to say. All right, so
and I was 12 too. So
I saw in a little piece today that if you drink a pint of beer, it takes 15 minutes off your life. Now, just finding out today is kind of bad, right?
Yeah.
There's no way I can go back and tabulate how many pints of beer I've had to see how much time I have left.
See, so, I'm good on that score, Russ. The problem is the same thing. It tells you that if you eat a pizza, it takes 5 years off your life.
All right, so if pizza and beer takes 5 minutes and 15, what is it? Wait, you said 5 minutes? Takes 20.
I said 5 years. I was joking.
5 years, okay. Well, let's say it takes 20 minutes. So if it's 20 minutes off my life, boy, I probably got until 70. Yeah.
See you later.
Mike, you don't drink beer, right?
I drink the occasional beer. I'm just not I'm a diabetic, so I can't really drink that much, and I never have been a big drinker, so I try to avoid it. But every once in a while, I'll have a pint of Guinness.
I was a bigger drinker, like in college, going through my 30s to somewhere in the 40s. Then I slowed down. But pizza has never slowed down.
Yeah, no, I've had, like on a hot summer day, I'll have a nice cold Corona. That's because that's almost not like beer. It's almost like yellow colored water.
Right.
This doesn't have any kind
honestly, I don't know how long I have left. So just to let everybody know that
I have never had a beer. I've never tasted beer. I've never had a beer. It's one of the weirdest things about me.
Have you smelled a beer?
Well, yes, my wife drinks beer.
Okay. All right.
I get beer.
She's never been able to entice you to have any.
No, she's never said taste this. She's tried. She's tried. I shouldn't say that.
The funny thing is, like, I know that you like your Bailey's on the rocks, which
once in a while, very rarely,
very once in a while, and I used to like that. But one time for St. Patty's Day around Buffalo is the time when Bailey's and Guinness, everybody does the Irish car bomb, which is Jameson, Guinness, and Bailey's mixed together. No. But I'm saying I got violently ill one St. Patrick's Day because of I may have just had too much Bailey's. It was like it must have been like
really? You got sick on Bailey's?
I got sick on Bailey's, and now it's like when you get sick on some alcoholic beverage or alcoholic drink, you can't really drink it again because it brings back those feelings of being ill. So you can cross Bailey's and Rumplemints off of my list.
I'm going to give you a quick story here. So back in my day, probably when I was about 16, we were taking roller skating lessons. We took lessons. I'll tell you why. We took lessons because at that time, 13 to 17, that was the hot place in town. If you wanted to find a girl, that was where you went. So we figured out, someone told us, hey, if you take lessons, the lessons are an hour before the open skate. So you're already inside. And they gave you free skates. So we did that, right?
Right.
So we go in, and our first day getting lessons, the instructor is drinking. Like he's got alcohol on his breath. And we all looked at each other and the light bulb went off. So first we tried Jack Daniels that way. And I didn't get sick, but a few did. But I had enough where I really don't want to see Jack Daniels again in my life. But if it's mixed, I can do it. And then another time we did Southern Comfort that way. And I never want to see Southern Comfort again in my life.
I know lots of people don't want to see Southern Comfort again.
Southern Comfort's like drinking cough syrup, and Jack Daniels gives me the worst heartburn in the world.
A friend of mine who's still a friend annoyed
There's a lot of friends of yours that aren't still friends, I guess.
I know. Well, that's true. Back then, he annoyed a gang member, and my dad actually had to save this guy. My dad basically, I called my dad from the rink, and we went to the back of the rink, and it was really funny. This was like a bad B movie, but everybody was looking for my friend at that point, and we ducked out. My dad drove around. We threw him on the floor because 10 minutes before my dad got there, he tried to get in a car with another guy, my friend, and they started shaking his car. So he had to run out of there and like hide. And then we hit him. And then when my dad came, we threw him on the floor. And then when the crowd figured it out, they started chasing after my dad's car, and he just peeled out on what's known as Hempstead Turnpike. And I'm telling you, this guy would have just gotten beaten that day. So it was a very exciting day in my life. Yeah.
It sounds like it. Oh my God.
My dad was a hero. My dad was a true hero.
It's so funny. Oh, weird. So my computer's acting all funky today. So I'm sorry if it's not working well. Let me know.
No, you're fine. Just leave it as is.
Very strange because I'm checking the chat room and I don't see what I'm typing.
Well, Russ has the chat, so
yeah.
Just
all right, so weird though because it should be there. Anyway.
Well, this was like Monday. You couldn't see or couldn't. You could
Monday
hear.
I couldn't see or hear you guys at the end of the show. It was really funny. It was like just totally completely whacked.
Yeah,
that's all right. We're good. We'll make it.
We covered the East in terms of winners, and I used losers because I like the negative.
I know. I tried to not do that as you saw, but hey.
Yeah, well, I went there.
Winners and winners.
So we can do the West, and frankly, the West is much more interesting.
I've got some trades that almost happened that we can discuss, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
So another thing, if you're just joining us now, you see behind me is a green screen, right? And a lot of you guys know how to play with green screens. There's simple free software out there you can do things with. So somebody sent me this email. They thought it'd be fun, and I thought since it's the end of the trade deadline, as our little gift to you, we're going to have like a green screen behind me in this show, and I'm going to say things once in a while that'll enable you to put green screens behind it. That'll be ridiculous, and then you can send, and the best winner will get something. So I'm going to start off with one now. Okay, so here we go. All right, so I'm going to do this. Okay, it's got to be on me. Good Lord, no. Okay, there you go.
Your acting skills are wonderful.
That was really bad. You know, I should tell you this because we may have a connection here that you don't realize. So
you've got
that roller rink was called Levittown.
Not again.
Roller
Not
rink,
again.
Right? And I only recently found out that Levittown, Long Island, and Levittown, Pennsylvania were built by the same guy.
Ah.
Did you know that?
No, but I do know those are fake towns.
They're not fake towns, but
they were built as like, you know.
Yes, they were built as like these Stepford towns, but I didn't realize that the one in Pennsylvania and the one on Long Island are exactly from the same developer. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I knew Levittown was. I knew it was like a town like that. That's what.
Okay.
Weird. All right, let's start the show and we'll get into things. And maybe at some point I'll be able to talk to you guys in the chat room. So I apologize for now. Here we go. It's the 27th. It's Wednesday.
That's correct.
Tomorrow's the last day of February. Hello, Hockey World. It's Wednesday, February 27th, 2019.
I'm Michael Lagello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I am Eklund. And oh no, what's that? I'm just kidding. You're watching the HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill in the comings and goings of the hockey world. This is post-deadline party. You guys had one yesterday too, which I could not make at the last minute, and I apologize. All kinds of stuff going on here. But I do want to say one thing, that there ain't no sleep like the post-deadline sleep. I've noticed that. That's like, for some reason, my gosh, I sleep so well. And I don't really sleep well ever, but I sleep so well right after the whole deadline thing's over.
Because you're overtired, that's why.
Yeah.
Overtired, and just like that feeling of like, for me personally, it's the first time I can actually like not have to be tethered to my phone completely. Like to the way I can say, okay, you know, if someone calls me now, I missed the call. It's fine if they text me now and I miss it. And, but if someone texts me and something went down and I missed it, that'd be rotten. So that's my that's my issue.
Yeah, I'm like that. I'm like that all year. So I if I don't have my phone in my hand or on my person, I get panicked. So
yeah, I usually like that too. But I do have this thing after the deadlines of getting away from it. I'm able to get away from it. I'm just like, you know what? I'm putting it down. And I actually, it's one of the nights that I most look forward to just watching hockey, just for the hell of it. Like, just like without.
Well, I know you tweeted out about players in their different jerseys.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
I love player. I mean, and I, so I got the picture of Simmons. I put that out there. It was fun, and and we'll talk about that later too with Hartman and all that. Some of these players who are making good impressions right off the bat. But let's. You guys talked about the Eastern Conference winners and losers, or winners and non-winners, as I like to call it, yesterday. Let's get right into the Western Conference today.
Okay, we can start. We'll start in the Central.
Okay, in the Central, I'm flat out, and I said this before, that I really see Nashville as a big winner in this one. I think that they didn't give up all they had to give up to get Stone, which would have been Fabro. I found that out today. And in a first round draft pick, they got
which makes sense based on what Vegas had to give up. They gave up Brandstrom and a number 2.
Yeah. They got Simmons. I said they got Hartnell. They got Simmons, but they only gave up Hartman, really, and a conditional pick. And Hartman, stepped in last night, and he's a good player, but he hasn't scored in like 25 games in Nashville. He's been struggling. They gave up a first-round draft pick last year to get him.
Right.
He was only struggling because of the way they used him there. I mean, again, he's not getting prime ice time on a team like Nashville. Yeah. So I think Ryan Hartman did everything you would expect Ryan Hartman to do in a game. He had an early hit. He had an early fight. He had a great defensive play that, led to a scoring chance. He played well. He was, he's fast. He was present. Like, that's what he does. But on a team like Nashville, that gets lost because, he'll get 5 more minutes a game with the Flyers, and he'll be able to do more as a result. Yeah. Well, so that's where I think, Hartman's really got a benefit here.
I think the thing that Nashville did is they were more hockey deals than they were deadline deals in the typical sense. They didn't give up draft picks. They gave up Fiala to Fenton in Minnesota, who was the former assistant GM in Nashville, so he knows Fiala pretty well. Yeah. So they get Granlund for Fiala, so they get more experience, and I think probably at this point a more consistent offensive performer. They trade Hartman, and they bring in Simmons as a rental. To me, that's a great return for Philadelphia. I was telling Russ before is the fact that you got a guy, 22, 23 years old in Hartman. So I think that's his age range. Yeah. And, just starting out his career, who's had success in Chicago, had limited success in Nashville, but you're talking about Simmons, who was a rental. So he was gone at the end of the year, and you get yourself a player who's going to be in your lineup for a few years. I think that's a great return for Philly, but I think Nashville did really well.
Yeah, they did. And I will tell you this, honestly, right now at this moment, Brandstrom's ahead of Fabro. So
yes,
Ottawa got the better return getting Brandstrom right now because Fabro's not close to the NHL. Brandstrom will be in the NHL.
Right.
There was a lot, and then so of course Winnipeg also,
I think Winnipeg's a big winner, especially after the news came out after Monday that Morrissey is going to be out until early to mid-April. I heard some people who said he could be out for part of the first round. They at least got some depth on defense. I mean, not great depth, but Beaulieu is an NHL defenseman. I believe it's Kilisevich that they got.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to play though.
I don't know if he's going to play, but at least he's been in the NHL. At least he's played a little bit, so it's not like they're pulling up somebody from Manitoba.
I think they should. I think they should call up Logan Stanley and see what he can do. I would play him over Kilisevich, he's another 6'7" guy, right? He's another big guy, but I would rather have Logan Stanley give it a go at this point.
But the big acquisition was Hayes, and then they added some depth with Matt Hendricks and Power Lindholm. But I mean, they did a good. They didn't do as good as Nashville, but I think they improved themselves. They just have to worry right now about getting Bufflin back healthy, getting Morrissey back healthy for the playoffs. If that happens, then they're in pretty decent shape.
I mean, the rest is a meat grinder. I mean, there's so many teams that could win that good teams are going to get eliminated every round. Like that's just
right.
Yeah. No, you're right.
the way it is.
You're right. And the Jets, do we see the Jets tonight? Are the Jets in action tonight?
I'll check.
They are not. Okay, so tonight we have the Oilers and Maple
Well,
Leafs.
I mean, I have to say though that they played Minnesota last night. I watched the third period of that game. They were up 2-1 late. Minnesota tied it with I think a minute and a half left to go in the third. Jason Zucker scored a goal, and then there was a weird goal that they won from Joel Eriksson-Ek. I mean, Minnesota. And we'll talk about them in a second, but Minnesota, they got 2 points that they desperately needed, and that hurt Winnipeg because, they're in a tight race with Nashville, but Nashville lost to St. Louis. So they didn't lose any ground, but still those are opportunities to get points that they didn't get.
The Preds, I watched a lot of that game last night with Nashville and St. Louis, and they, St. Louis is playing very well. Of course, we know that, right? They're playing better than anybody right now. But the Predators, their issue is their defense is not creating offense like it usually does. And their defense is not stepping up in the play. They're not getting a lot of push, and they're playing a lot more defensively. It was a 0-0 game for most of the game yesterday. It was kind of a boring game, actually. It wasn't like a whole lot of chances, actually.
But the thing that struck me, Ak, was the fact that I turned the game on middle of the third period, and Nashville had 16 shots on Binnington. They weren't generating a lot of chances.
Yeah, and I really feel like with Nashville, that comes from the defense because, I mean, the Preds, you can say Hartman didn't get a lot of time in Nashville, but the Preds offense is not any deeper than the Flyers offense. I mean, it's like, but the Preds defense is just.
But it should be, and you feel like at some point it might be. By the way, with Hartman, we've got to mention he put a walloping on Rasmus Dahlin last night, who had his head down.
Yeah,
that's something for Dahlin to sort of keep in mind for the future, because otherwise he played a great game. Like he's up to 37 points.
Yeah.
And I think when we were talking about him, I think I said somewhere between like 35 and 40 for him.
Yeah.
But he's going to go over that.
No, he's been really good, and Hartman was really impressed. Hartman did everything like to endear himself to the Philadelphia crowd. I mean, he's just.
And
much people don't want to see Simmons go.
Granlund wasn't in the lineup for Nashville, so I mean, I'm sure. Okay. Yeah, that
his wife's having a baby.
Right.
So he's taking time off to help her.
Now,
but then as soon as so getting back to the Preds, so I didn't see how did Hayes look in the game last year?
I will tell you, Peter texted me a few times. I didn't watch it. He liked what he saw, but didn't like Hayes along the wall. And I said, well, that's something you're going to sort of have to get used to, because the defensive part of Kevin Hayes' game is not what you get Kevin Hayes for.
Right.
And I know Jan doesn't like it when I say that he'll have those occasional gaffes where the hockey sense isn't quite what it should be, but he's definitely lessened all that. But he said otherwise he did like what he saw. That was his only criticism, was against the wall.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm keeping you up, Mike.
Oh, that's no problem.
Central.
St. Louis did nothing other than the ad of Delzato, which is just a depth defensive move.
But right now they're playing so well. They should,
right,
and they did so much in the offseason. I mean, the biggest thing of St. Louis right now, honestly, is they need consistency. They're actually playing better. A lot of people think just because it took that long to get like basically 7 new players into the system. Like where they are. So they are doing what they need to do. There's no question about that.
No,
Chicago, I thought would do something. I really did. And one of the things that I did hear was that they were in on a player. I can't remember who was it. I can't remember who it was. I wrote today. I'm just losing my mind.
Tony Esposito?
No.
Murray Bannerman?
Anyway, I was thinking, but no, they didn't do anything. When all was said,
Pierre Pelot?
Chicago didn't do anything.
Minnesota's interesting because it came out today. Mike Russo in The Athletic wrote something about Jason Zucker because he scored the tying goal yesterday, that Zucker was in play. Carolina apparently was trying to acquire him. So was Calgary. The deal that Russo referred to was Michael Frolik and a draft pick, which I'm sure, looking at that, Russ, I don't think that's, and you're
going in my head. I don't believe that was the deal. I don't.
Oh, that's what, and that was the report.
Well, I know Pittsburgh was also trying to get Zucker, I was told, and that would have been only if they could have moved Kessel, which they did try to do.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've gotten legitimately told flat out, that they.
I believe that. I do. And look, I believe Zucker's name comes up in trade talks because he's making money, but I also believe they really have to get the right trade to trade him because they know what he means to that team. And again, they don't have a ton of scoring. So the fact that they didn't get rid of him is probably best for them this season.
But look at the 3 deals that they made leading up to the deadline. They lost the Niederreiter for Rask deal, but Niederreiter was not working out in Minnesota. He's gotten a fresh start with Carolina, and he's doing well there. And Rask is not doing well at this point, but we'll see.
Right.
But so they flipped Niederreiter for Rask. They flipped Donato, get a draft pick for Coyle, and they flip flop Granlund for Fiala. That's $14 million in cap space out the door, most of it being long term, and they get back less. I think it's around 6. That, I mean, based on what we had heard before the deadline about Craig Leopold giving Fenton the thumbs up to make some changes, well, he has, and it may not be for the worse because Donato's playing well. And I think, Fiala is a good young player. It got stagnant there. And I think
that's all it was. Now they've got a little bit of a juice there. I mean, they moved up in the wild card race. Like they're in the first wild card. The interesting thing is, Eck, I feel like Zucker was in play until Stahl went and signed for less. Because I think looking at the long-term deal there and said, you know what, if we're going to keep Stahl, we probably have to get rid of Zucker. And then maybe came in for less, saying, let's keep these other guys.
Or Zucker was in play until they traded Granlund, and then they didn't have to trade Zucker.
Correct. Either way.
Yeah, it was Calgary and Chicago that were looking at Stahl, I was told. And Chicago was kind of surprising. And I repeated what I said during the show, which was that, even though Stahl wouldn't go to Boston, that didn't mean he wasn't possible to get traded. But I do think he wants to stay in Minnesota, which obviously he signed, so he's shown that he wants to stay in Minnesota.
And I think the reason why he wants to stay in Minnesota is because he's from Thunder Bay. Thunder Bay is basically a 3.5 hour drive from Minneapolis, maybe a little longer. I've never driven it.
Flight away, a short jet flight.
Yeah, or a short jet flight. Yeah, exactly. And so in terms of grandma and grandpa, he's fairly close. So that's that might be. He's made big money over his career. So, I mean, it may be more, okay, I can play close to home, it's convenient, and it's not a bad organization either. So that may be the reason why.
Yeah.
I mean, that deal is a home run. Getting Stahl for 2 more years at $3.25 million is a home run.
Fenton might be up for GM of the year because if you think about it, everybody looked at that team when Koivu went out, when Dumba went out, and they thought it's over for them. I didn't think it was over. I told you I thought they'd stay in it barely. They're staying in it better than that, and Fenton's saving on the cap. Like that's a massive job by this GM.
Yeah, but they should be better than they are, I think.
Injuries have killed them.
I know injuries have killed them. It's true, and he's done a good job. But he has. I'm not saying
he's done better than a good job. Think about that for a minute. He has legitimately saved the season, and the cap is in better situation now.
Yeah.
I mean, Devin Dubnyk has stepped up. That's what we talked about all year.
That's what they need, right? That's what they need for sure. Dallas tried to do a lot. Obviously, they made their move.
Well, they made their moves early, and then they got the misfortune of Zuccarello breaking his arm. They said 4 weeks for that. So I mean, they're in trouble.
Really, it's a small arm. If it was a bigger guy, no, I'm just kidding.
Jeez, well, a small joke. No, but they improved their defense a little bit with the addition of Lovejoy. But the Zuccarello was the big move, and now he's out. So they're basically where they were.
Right.
I mean, it's going to be tough. I mean, there are teams right on their backs. I mean, Colorado. They added Brassard. I know that's not a big impact move, but for a team that doesn't have much other than that number one line. They need a Brassard to at least give you a little bit of secondary offense to help out Comfort.
It was a sneaky good move. It was a sneaky good move. It was kind of surprising.
And
this division did pretty well in general. I mean, Chicago didn't do anything really.
No, but to get back to Dallas, I mean, they had to. We all feel like Jim Nill's under the gun here. So
I think Stan Bowman realized that, he wasn't going to go out with his cap situation. He wasn't going to go out and make some sort of short-term move because there's 6 points out of it. He's made his moves. He's made good ones. If they miss the playoffs, they miss the playoffs. I mean, it's been basically a second half run here for Jeremy Colleton, where I think he's salvaged. I mean, because honestly, it looked like they're going to be looking for a new head coach after they fired Quenneville because the team was doing so bad. And now in the last, say, 6 weeks, they've really turned it around. There's hope there, but there's going to be more changes.
Wait, so Mike, you were saying he was looking Denny Savard bad? Is that?
Well, no, Peter Horacek bad. I mean, what did he have? Like four victories for the first 2 months. It was terrible.
Yeah.
So they're 6 points out. There is hope, like you said.
Right. I mean, faint hope.
It's faint.
The Flyers at 5 points out. It's hopeless.
Oh no, that's massive. They're right in it. You're right.
Yeah, they're yeah. Jeez. Okay, let's.
I watched the Dallas Stars game last night, so talk a little bit about that game. I wanted to see, what Stone looked like and everything. That they looked pretty good. Pacioretty scored a couple goals.
Okay, wait. So let's not bury the lead there. Yeah. You didn't really love Pacioretty going there, and you kind of felt like he was on the downslide. And I remember saying, let him have a change of environment, and this guy will still score goals. Like, I think he's had a good season.
He has had a good season. No, and I said that was possible because I said he more than anybody else needed to get out of Montreal. Like, he really did. And
it also reflects on the fact that look at most of the guys who go from one team to another in a big free agent deal or in a trade. It takes them time to adjust. Yeah. It took Carlson half a season to adjust. It's taken Pacioretty. I mean, the outlier is actually John Tavares. He had his best year of his career in the first year after signing with the Leafs. But
I did predict. Thank you.
You did, and the thing is, I think the fact that helped him is he's going home, someplace he's lived his entire life. That helps. It's uprooting your family, going to a strange place like Vegas. I mean, it's understandable that it would take some time for Pacioretty to adjust, but he's doing okay. So
he's got goals. I mean, that's fine.
He's doing well. I mean, the Knights have their issues. The Stars definitely. I mean, the thing about that game.
One more thing about the Knights, So in this season, William Karlsson's got 18 goals and 39 points. I think we all said he would probably get around 20 goals. And his shooting percentage went from 23 to 13. So that's the part we knew would come back to earth.
So the question is now, because he's an RFA, and to qualify him, it'll be 10% of what he's making now, which I think was in the fives.
Yep.
The thing is that he might not be worth that. So, I mean, not to say that they're going to trade him.
He's worth 10% for sure. I mean,
but it's only on a 1 year deal. It's a question of whether
he's worth $500,000.
Well, okay, I'm just looking it up right now. Karlsson's at 5.25, so it would be 5.8 to qualify him. The question is, if you want a long-term deal coming off a 20-goal season, it's going to be around 5.25, 5.5 at most. I mean, are you hoping that he gets back to 43 goals again? I mean, I don't know if that's reality.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be. And then, that it's not surprising. I mean, like we said, he had a career before he was there, and he didn't always do what he did last year. So
he didn't do it anywhere close to what.
I know. So I mean, I think they're going to be like Thomas in the chat room asked, do you see them going on another run this year? They could. I mean, they're a dangerous team in the playoffs. There's no question about it. They're a team that no one wants to play. They have the ability.
They are a team that can be carried by their goalie.
Yeah, and they've shown the ability to win in clutch situations, and they've come back from really a terrible start to being a valid team again. So there's no question there. I think that. I mean, like I was saying about the Dallas team, though, is watching that game, it was a point at which Ben Bishop, who just came back from an injury, again looked like he hurt himself last night in that game. He went across and he just really was awkward and looked like a groin pull or something. Yeah. And he kept playing, but then they made a bad play on the one Pacioretty goal and didn't get back in the net very quickly. He looked like he was hurt. If he's hurt, then they're really in trouble. I mean,
this is around the time of year when Ben Bishop usually gets hurt. So
that's the biggest issue. They've got to make sure he's healthy. Because they just flat out need him. He's the key to that team making the playoffs. Without him, they're screwed. They don't have anything behind him that will help that enough.
Now I know there were a lot of people out there that were critical of Calgary not doing anything. Apparently they tried.
They did try.
They did try. Zucker, and you said Stahl. That was the first I've heard of that. And I know they weren't on Stone. I don't think it's the worst thing for them to have stood pat, but I mean, Oscar Fantenberg's not really going to move the needle much.
No,
but I mean, they're so good right now. They're doing so well. They really walked into Nassau Coliseum last night and taught the Islanders a lesson. It was basically, and they shut the Islanders down. It was a 3-1 game. It was a close game, but they out trots.
Okay, but you're giving them a pass, and you didn't give the Islanders a pass, and they pretty much did the same thing.
Well, I think they tried. I don't think the Islanders did anything.
No, they tried. They just didn't.
Oh, what? I haven't heard anything about Lou trying something.
No, I mean, look.
No, they did. They were also on Stone. They had a
Stone for what it's worth.
A first round draft pick and a player, Bulliu or something like that.
Okay.
Going for that. It wasn't close to the offer. From what I heard, that wasn't close to the offer that was coming out of Vegas. But they were definitely in on Stone. There's no question about that.
Yeah, but I think other than Vegas and apparently Florida, most of these teams were in on Stone as rentals. That was, and apparently that didn't interest Ottawa because they wanted to maximize their return, and didn't interest Stone because he wasn't going to sign any place other than a couple places. I mean, Dale Talon came out and said that he was interested in Stone, but he couldn't offer what Vegas offered. So and I mean in terms of money, not in terms of a package. So, but I'm just critical of the Islanders because, I think it's reflective. I mean, people have said this before the deadline. If Lou Lamoriello doesn't do anything, then it's an indicator that he doesn't believe that this team is sort of for real. I'm not saying I'm not dismissing how they played this year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
You can't take it away from them. They're in first place. They're having a great year.
He came out and said to them he didn't do anything because he thought they were for real. He thought they were legitimate.
Yeah. Now, San Jose, I like the Nyquist move. I mean, it's a good. I think he can play in definitely play in their top 9, maybe in their top 6. But San Jose's future rests on Martin Jones getting straightened out before the playoffs, and Carlson, who apparently he's fighting a wonky groin, and I know he left I'm not sure if it was last night. I think it was that he played for a little bit and then came out of the lineup. If it's a case of having him fully healthy, then sit him the last 6 weeks.
They've got plenty of points. They're going to be a playoff team, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, you need that guy being 100% or as close to 100% because the difference between them winning and losing is that defensive Vlasic, Burns, and Carlson being a difference maker.
I mean, I don't know how this is all on Stone. I mean, on Jones, because like 2 out of his last 4 games, he had a shutout and he had a 2-goal game. I get he's had some stinkers in there, but I can't say it's all on him.
Well, I'm looking at the season imbalance. I mean, up until recently, his save percentage was under 900. I mean,
I'm just going by lately. Like, I'm just going to go.
Right, lately, fine. I'm just saying, like up until the last couple weeks, I mean, there was talk about them being interested in goaltending, and like the Ryan Miller thing that we heard about a week before the deadline. It didn't come to fruition, and I'm surprised it didn't because I thought Ryan Miller, if they got him, might have a chance to be the starter in the playoffs the way Jones was playing.
But that might have been just to spark him, I think
maybe very possible.
Yeah, we definitely think he'd be able to turn it on the playoffs, but at the same time, yeah, it is tricky. I mean, that division, obviously Vegas made a good move getting Stone. Arizona didn't do much.
I mean, obviously.
What?
It's a massive move. Like,
no, I'm saying they're a winner. They're a winner, and we've already talked about it. But But no, I think that but Arizona I thought would do. Arizona is one of those teams I was disappointed in as far as
Well, I mean, even though I'll get the echo here. Hold on.
Mhm.
Let me just mute myself and unmute myself. Oh, there it's gone now. I mean, realistically, they've had so many injuries, Arizona. It's a miracle that they are where they are in terms of being close. They're 2 points out of a playoff spot.
Yeah.
Maybe you could find something to add because they have a ton of cap space, but
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, we know that Chaika's under a budget, and I think that they stayed that way because they really don't have the money to do it.
I guess so. But they you would think
maybe
are we to believe they're at their budget level right now, this moment?
They can't be because this is like way too low.
Well, maybe their deadline addition was the activation of Christian Dvorak because they got him back after being out all year. I mean, I'm surprised they're in it. Period.
We all are. But
there's players out there that they could have gotten. Like somebody like Chason out of Edmonton or something that could give them a little bit of guys that were definitely available. Raffle we talked about in Philadelphia, like guys that would have.
But Edmonton wanted a second-round pick for Chason.
Here's the way I look at it. I would have thought they would go all out to try and get into the playoffs so they can get some playoff revenue. And they didn't do that at the deadline.
Yeah, they didn't. Not at all. I mean, opposite of, they're in the same boat, as Columbus. They did not do it.
Now, Vancouver made the late surprising trade. Like I said yesterday, the analytics nation in
everybody on this one,
they were waving their pom poms in celebration of that deal. But honestly, I like Tanner Pearson. I think Gabranson is a better defenseman than Tanner Pearson is a forward.
I agree.
And actually, the need for Gabranson was much more than their need for Pearson. Pearson had 9 goals. But it's not like, that's ripping it up. Gabranson at least gives you an automatic physical presence.
Yeah.
And he's not a bad defenseman. I don't care about the analytics either. He blocks shots. He does some things.
The tough-nosed defenseman.
They needed that. Now, the problem is that Tom Galiti said last night that Brian Rust left in a walking boot and somebody else was injured in that game too.
Yeah, another defenseman. They're one of their defensemen.
Chad Riedel. Yeah. Yeah, so
I mean, that Pittsburgh's getting killed with injuries, and that's one of the things that's made Pittsburgh really good is that they've been able to avoid that in the past. Like they've been able to avoid getting killed by injuries. This year, right now, granted at this time of year, there's still time, but they're not assured a playoff spot. They're in a battle, and they've got to. Everyone seems to think they'll be able to turn it on, and probably they can, but still.
Well, the interesting thing, just to drop in on the East before we go back to the West. Yesterday, you had Pittsburgh win, you had Montreal win, you had Carolina win, and you had Columbus lose. Mm-hmm. And Columbus right now is on the outside looking in. And I tweeted out, what happens if they miss the playoffs after adding Duchesne and McQuaid and Kincaid and keeping Panarin and Bobrovsky? Can you say cluster bleep?
Sure.
Because that's what it is.
What happens when you go for it?
But we all sort of looked at that in the press box last night and said, that's a lot of pieces to add. It's not something that they would lose their first game.
Right. And the thing is that there's going to be an adjustment in terms of getting all these guys. You don't have much time. You have 6 weeks.
Yeah.
You put all these new bodies in there, getting used to each other. You could wallow around 500 for a few weeks until you get on the same page. You're giving up your bleeding points that you absolutely need to get into the playoffs. So, I mean,
they're 1 point behind Carolina and they've got a game in hand.
I know. I'm just saying it's like right now they're on the outside looking in. It's like everybody's assuming they're going to make the playoffs based on all these moves that they made. I'm saying it's like you got to play up to it. And right now they're not.
Good point. 6 weeks isn't enough time. Even Kim Basinger needed 9.5 weeks.
I could have done it in 5. All right. So
I'm not sure that's a bonus, Zach.
No, please.
I think it is a bonus when we're talking in terms of weeks, Ross. I do. I think weeks. Yeah. Anybody.
I'm going to make a lactose intolerant joke about 9.5 weeks, but I'll keep that.
That's not
Anyway, so
yep. The oh man.
Well, Anaheim traded Gooley or traded Montour for Gooley in a number 1. I think that goes along with. Let's just say this: I think Anaheim is going to be one of the more busier teams in the summer. I don't know if it's going to be Bob Murray who's going to be being busy. That probably will be, but they've got to find a way to move out, or not about buyout because it'll be prohibitive. But Kessler, Perry, Getzlaf. Maybe Getzlaf stays because he's still got something, but Kessler's done and Perry is pretty close to it. And they've got a bunch of young guys like Sam Steele, Troy Terry. On defense they got Jakob Larson, which has probably freed them up to move Montour. So I mean, there's got to be a change over there. Russ knows that organization is deep and talented. They got a lot of good young players, but they're so overloaded with older players with making big money that it's tough for them to sort of move forward.
I think Kessler's the one they have to do something with because at the end of the day, Corey Perry could still play a tough, agitating role.
Sure,
and do that for a while. So I think it's Kessler. Even though Getzlaf may have the most value, he strikes me as a guy that probably doesn't want to leave.
Yeah,
that's the thing about Getzlaf.
Yeah, he said it. He probably has a no trade clause too.
Right.
Oh, I'm pretty sure he has something. Now I heard something on Toronto radio this morning from Pierre LeBrun, and I mentioned it during the trade deadline show that Connor Brown's name was out there, and it was in connection with the Edmonton Oilers. And the reason that makes sense is because Connor Brown was the line mate of Connor McDavid with Erie. He's right now he's a fourth line guy, a versatile forward with the Leafs, making over $2 million, and with the Leafs coming up in terms of their limitations on the cap that they might be amenable to moving Connor Brown. The talk was that it was involving Adam Larson in a deal, and if I were Kyle Dubas, I would steer as far away from that guy as you possibly could. Oh yeah, it's not just the Taylor Hall thing. I mean, he's just. I've watched him for a few years. He is not a good defenseman any longer. He really is not.
Yeah, I don't watch him that closely, but I've never really noticed him being bad. Like,
we have a green screen, Russ,
in the Twitter feed. Yep.
Okay.
Where? In whose Twitter feed? Mine?
It's all of ours. Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to look at it after the show. That'll be cool. But is it like space behind him? He looks like
no. You when you
bring it up,
you'll laugh.
Is it okay to bring up for this?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay, but Edmonton really didn't do much, and I think reality has set in that they're done. That this season is over with.
It's 7 points out, so yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, thankfully Keith Gretzky did not follow up the talk of, well, we think we're still in it by making a stupid deal. But the thing is, you mentioned Chason. Chason was having a good year. He's a UFA. They didn't trade him. Maybe they're interested in re-signing him, but you could re-sign him in the summer. Why don't you get a draft pick for him? Why? Why not?
I know.
All right, here's what we have. Ready? This comes to us from. Got the name again.
Hockey Insider.
No.
Oh.
From
Brad.
Thank you, Alexander Daig.
From Brad. Here we go. Yeah, this is pretty good. I do appreciate this. I appreciate the effort for sure.
There's some effort here.
Here we go. This is it. The Buzzcasters. In disorder in chat.
Oh.
Wow.
I like it. Yep. That's I can grow that. I can't really grow a beard, but that if I could, I would try. That is awesome. We appreciate it. And if you guys have anything else, just feel free to enjoy the green screen behind me. Thought it would be fun for everybody.
Got the full gritty
to try to make me look like Gritty. Come on, please. My eyes are much too small.
Yeah. I got the gritty eyes and everything. Those are my gritty eyes too. For my gritty, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's really impressive.
Somebody's got time in their hands.
That's really good. Thank you, Brad. Very much appreciate that. Excellent.
As it usually is, and I'm sure you'll dig these things out as we go along into the playoffs before the draft and before July 1st. A lot of things that may have gotten close before 3 p.m. on Monday will rear their ugly head in the offseason. So the Leafs need to shed some salary, and Edmonton is desperate for wingers. I don't know if Kyle Dubas likes Adam Larson, but I would, like I said, I would wave him away from that one. But there could be something there between Toronto and Edmonton. Nikita Zaitsev's name has been out there as well. So I mean, when deals like that fall apart or there's at least talk, that's something that the general managers will usually circle back on.
Hey, you want Zaitsev? I'll give you Zaitsev and like a third rounder for Kale Yamamoto. Let's go.
If I was the Leafs, I would do that.
The Leafs can't do Zaitsev. No one wants to pay that money to him.
Edmonton, they still need defensemen.
Well, I'm a skeptic as well about Zaitsev, but the thing is, with the cap going up, the teams that need to get to the cap floor would be interested because they won't be opposed to paying a little more than they normally would for a defenseman. He's durable. I think he's an okay defenseman. He isn't the guy who played. He's not the same player that performed well as a rookie. But $4.5 million now is. It's getting to be chicken feed when it comes to a top four defenseman. So he could go to an Arizona or a team teams that are looking to get to the cap floor, and that salary is not going to be an impediment to them.
Yeah, no, he could. He could. That's for sure. He could. So LA, the fast final team, I think we didn't talk about, did we?
No, and they made the Hagelin move, but we talked about Toffoli being possibly in the mix, but that didn't happen. So
yeah, I think they were losers, honestly, or not winners, because they really had to do more. This is a team that needs to change.
They'll probably do more over the summer. I guess they just couldn't do it that day.
The question is whether one of those moves will be Jonathan Quick or not.
Yeah, I know people had interest in Quick for sure. There was interest. I don't know if I buy into the rumors of like Lundqvist, in Ben Columbus and all this stuff that I was hearing, but that people are contacting them regarding Lundqvist. I'm not so sure about that.
Well, when Russ gets back, I know that the Zuccarello trade was traumatic, and I'm not going to be one of these people who makes fun of Henrik Lundqvist because he was emotional because one of his best friends was traded, because that's just heartless. I
had to break it up there. Perla's got a bone, and my deaf cat was walking near her, so I didn't want to.
Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Yeah, did you think anything to the rumors that Lundqvist was involved in anything?
No, I don't think so, because I think we would have heard had he waived anything, because that would have been massive news. I don't think there's any truth to it.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I guess last thing, so Sam Carchidi wrote an article today that says Simmons could come back to the Flyers, and I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so, because I just think that he wants too much money. I guess it depends on how he does in the playoffs or whatever.
Can we say this? Because I mentioned this to Russ when we talked this morning. If you're a team, and I don't know how Simmons is going to play in the playoffs. If he plays well, then it's going to improve his stock, and teams might be willing to give him a longer contract. But if I'm taking him based on what he has done so far, and I'm projecting into July in terms of free agency, I'm not offering him any more than a 3-year deal, and I don't think many teams.
That's exactly why the Flyers didn't sign him.
Right now, if the Flyers are interested in signing him, and he's saying 5 or 6 years, then
I think they went down to 4 and they still wouldn't do it.
Right. Yeah, so I think that's going to be the limitation, Ak. I think it's going to be.
I think the limitation everywhere. And the bottom line is, if I don't think anyone's going to give him that kind of contract. If 3 years is what he's going to get, then then maybe he does come back to Philly. Because if that's the best he can do, I think he'd like to play in Philly. But he might end up loving it in Nashville. I could totally see him loving it in Nashville. Nashville's the kind of team that Simmons could really go for. I know
in Nashville, as you know, you have to sort of slot in. You're not going to get top dollar. You're going to get good money, but you're not going to get.
You're not going to make your money in Nashville for sure. And I think that a lot it's all he really is. Like last night in that St. Louis game, the Blues didn't take a penalty until the third period, I don't think. And Simmons really is not of much use to you, even strength. Like he can make a few plays, but he's not going to really do anything spectacular.
He still has more even strength than power play points this year, though, which is crazy.
He does, which is strange. But
for him, it's strange.
He's that he was, and I think a lot of that had to do with his wasn't on the power play, different inconsistencies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But if you could, the Predators finally went on the power play and put him on the power play and put him in his spot, the Simmons spot, which is right by the net, and he did have some chances and looked good. That's what he's going to do for you,
right?
And beat up somebody for you if you need it to. So, but his speed is not there. Obviously, you see it, and you see it a little bit more with Nashville, even because they are so fast. I did notice a couple of times they looked like he was laboring. Again, he's been through. It was a hellish 48 hours. Who knows? He's got to practice with the team. He's got to. It's hard sometimes, to take that raw emotion and just go with it. But
yeah, I'm gonna cut slack to anybody who was just traded. It's gonna take you a little bit of time to adjust. So if he looked sluggish, he was traded 24 hours ago or 48 hours ago. So you have to allow time. The thing that's going to be interesting is with what's going back to Stone in Vegas. It's not a rental. He's there for 8 years.
Yeah.
I mean, but people are going to expect results right away because they made this big investment. They traded one of the best prospects in their organization. They, now they've signed him for $9.5 million times 8 years. It may take him a little time just to get acclimated to that team. Yeah. And, maybe early on, there'll be a little bit of criticism of him if he doesn't.
And to take on the pressure of making that kind of money too. That's something that NHL players often struggle with. Because he is the kind of player who will score, but he's more of an all-around guy. Mm. So to expect huge numbers from him is not really where if he puts himself like, oh, I've got to score 100 points now because I'm making that kind of money. That's not going to work for him. He's going to have struggle if he does that. So he's got to be the takeaway guy, the setup guy, different situations, different spots. He's got to be the all-around player, which he can do on that Pacioretty. He was playing with Pacioretty and Stastny last night, and that's the old person line for that team, kind of, and or the old veteran line, I guess.
Oh, I got to tell you, Stastny's been really good since he's come back from injury.
Yeah,
and that's an impressive line: Pacioretty, Stastny, and Stone.
That's playoffs. That could be a great line.
Yeah, you're taking the heat off of Carlson and Smith and Tuck and Marcia. So, and those guys are, they're not long in the tooth and they have experience. So that could be a really tough line to match up against.
Yeah, for sure.
So the thing is, there is definitely going to be a reward for the team that wins the Pacific Division because they're going to play a wild card team. That's probably, Dallas, Minnesota, Colorado. Yeah. Whereas the second place team in that division is going to play Vegas.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
That's going to be tough.
Vegas is going to be difficult to play. They're really tough to play against. And
I think it depends. I think Fleury needs to amp up his game.
Yeah. Well, you would think he would, but and you'd think when you get to the playoffs, it's like a nice reset for Vegas that they can actually jump back into where they were last year. And a lot of people didn't pick. I picked them not to make the playoffs this year. So
I think I picked them to make it in the wild card situation. I think
I picked them in the wild card as well.
Yeah, so I thought they would fall just out of it, which is still possible, but not likely.
Fleury's got a .908 save percentage this year.
That's
look at the league average. I have to look it up.
Look at the usage though, and I think it was Ray Ferraro was mentioning yesterday that basically what they should do the last month of the season, because they're locked pretty much into third place unless they really start losing big time, is to rotate Fleury and Malcolm Subban and give Fleury some rest down the stretch.
I can see that.
But they've got to make sure they're going to make the playoffs first. So that's the thing.
Yeah, and they won yesterday. They just have to keep. They have like a 3 to 5 point gap on the on the wild card team. Unless they just lose a bunch of games in regulation, they should be fine. But yeah, they can't take their foot off the pedal.
Yeah, no question about it. No question about it. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. Thanks to everybody in the chat room for watching, and of course, have fun with the green screen. Feel free to send it to us. You can send it to at Eklund or at Sportsology or at Mike in Buffalo.
So here's the thing. You're gonna laugh. 909 is the league average for save percentage. He's under
right in the middle. Yep. But he's got to be better than average, obviously.
Yes.
You know, to make that team really viable.
Yeah.
All right. Remember that the buzz is just hockey, guys. We will talk to you tomorrow.